Hello and welcome to the Ireland on the Fly podcast about the people and places of fly fishing in Ireland. This week, in honour of the midsummer solstice, myself and Tom have decided to record a bit of a mid-season review to find out how the fishing has been, the highs and lows, and what we can also expect for the second half. So Tom, is it going to be a relegation dogfight or a Champions League battle?
It's always Champions League battle at the start. You always got to think you only look forward to a relegation battle when you've gotten out of it.
Yeah, but no offense, you're a Connacht rugby fan, so you know.
Yeah,
Champions Cup is kind of a bit far out in the horizon, isn't it?
We got Stuart Lancaster. Uh-huh.
Yes, actually, and sorry, quick rugby tangent here.
Yeah.
I heard somebody say it, and it's an interesting point. They're saying this is probably one of the biggest developments, if not Connacht rugby, but Irish rugby developments in terms of Stuart Lancaster's arrival, like what he could potentially do. Like,
oh yeah, I just have to say, like, kind of buzzing about it. Like it's a great appointment. Oh, I'm telling you. Now the stand is going to be opening up next year as well. Got my tickets for it, season tickets for it. But it's a fantastic appointment. It's huge. And I remember, like, when we were about a month ago, we were looking and I was chatting in the boat. I think I was chatting to Mike Katie, and I said, "Oh God, they're talking about people coming in. Wouldn't they get somebody? Wouldn't it be great if we got somebody like Stuart Lancaster?" And like that's the way I looked. Like I was sort of going, "Yeah, never."
Yeah.
And then we did. So yeah, no, got that to look forward to. No Champions Cup, but hopefully the year after.
Well, I tell you, fair play to him, and with his experience and the level he's come from. Like I think I read a quote from him as well where he said, like, he was he over in the West, and he was just like, "Oh, this feels home again," or something like that. He just said, "This feels right." Like this, yeah. He just felt.
But he's always said it. Even when he was at Leinster, he always loved Ireland.
Yeah,
he always really liked Ireland, and he really felt it when he was back in Galway. Yeah, he's got a place in Galway.
Oh, fair play to him. Well, best of luck, Stuart. So if you're into fly fishing, Stuart, you know who to call, Tom Dock. And if there's any tickets going, especially for those future Champions Cup games, we'll gladly have you on the show. Actually, he's on LinkedIn. I follow him on LinkedIn, and he does of good updates in terms of performance management and all that. So, what part of England is he from? Actually,
he's from the north, and he's always said that because he said that before in an interview that north of England people there's a lot of similarities between the north of England and Irish people, and he says he really noticed that when he moved here.
Yeah, I've always said it, like, if you think of Jack Charlton, how the Irish people took to Jack, and also Andy Farrell, I think there's a big, I don't know what it is, it's just there is a big commonality between the north of England.
There is actually, and they seem to, those two examples, they fitted in so well.
Yeah, so true.
And and so did Stuart Lancaster when he was at Leinster.
Yeah,
he's been here before, so he does fit in well.
Yeah. So between Stuart Lancaster going the rise of Connacht, Johnny Sexton buying his Munster season ticket, it's the decline and fall of Leinster, the once mighty Leinster.
I'll believe it when I see Johnny Sexton wearing a Munster jersey, right?
Yeah, okay. Exactly. Yeah. Good man, Johnny. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, fly fishing fans.
We digress.
That was this is part of our mid-season review. Still, I'm a Man United fan, so we're not going to talk about soccer. No, Jesus Christ, no. Oh, depressing, very depressing. So come here, Tom. Midsummer's coming up. You're telling me the mayfly is still out. It's like the longest mayfly season in history.
Yeah, I was out today, and now this is almost my quiet time. There's a bit of canis around. I don't do much with the canis. Not great up this part of the lake for canis, so I have to do a bit more travelling. And as it's an early start, it doesn't really suit me here. So look, to be honest, quiet time. These 2 weeks were always quiet. The last 2 weeks in June. But what I get, like today was a classic example. What I get in June is an American guy, and he's here on holiday, and it's the only time he could come. So we were out, and temperature hit about 22, 23 degrees, but it clouded over at lunchtime, and a bit of a breeze got up, and there was mayfly hatching, and about 4 or 5 seagulls picking them, and we rose. I think we rose 6 decent fish and 1 complete sprat. And of the 6 decent fish we got, we didn't get any of them, and only 2 of them hit him. But it was action.
Yeah.
When you wouldn't expect it, It was action when you wouldn't expect it. The analogy I use, which is, I don't know, did I say this before about the plate of chips?
Yes.
I said that before.
So you're picking at them, isn't it?
Yeah. So You're just picking at them at the end. And like I saw a lovely, at one stage this morning, it was gas. I saw a take in front of me. And there was a mayfly a couple of yards beside him. I said, "Oh, you might take that one." I said, "No, that." And I immediately said, "No, that he didn't break surface. He took a nymph. You could tell. You get to know the rises. It was a bulge, right?" And I waited for him to go and take it. But while I was waiting, the mayfly hatched where he had bulged.
Okay.
So he'd missed the nymph.
Yes. So was he going to follow
He'd
it up?
actually come up. No, he didn't. The mayfly flew off. This will often happen. And I've seen it so many times. It happens. You'll rise a fish. You could have a fly on that's working, right? You rise a fish, and you go take it, and you might change it and think that's it. But have a look around. Sometimes you'll see a rise, and you look, and the natural mayfly is still there, and they've missed it, and they're kind of like that. They're kind of playing. It's what I said. You're stuffed.
So even if they're missing it, do you still stick with the dries, or would you ever be tempted to go more than Imson? Can I give you my thinking, and not that it makes probably any sense, but
no.
So if they're not really bothered having to come up to the surface, so it's like the salmon analogy. If you can actually just put it more in their face, are they not more likely just to kind of swipe at it?
And it does work, but you have to have ultimate confidence in it. Because let's say what kept Chip going today was he was rising the odd fish.
Yes, I know what you mean. Yeah.
So he had confidence in it, and what you think is what is it? The definition of even though you might have missed the previous couple of fish, you go, well, the next guy will take it. And occasionally it does.
Is it because you're seeing action?
Occasionally it does.
You're seeing action.
But because you're seeing action, it is very hard to fish nymphs if you don't have confidence in them. You have to have the utmost confidence to stick through because you will not see anything. A fish could move at your fly and you're not going to see it. Whereas if he moves at your dry fly on the top, you'll see the disturbance.
But would you not?
Or if he moves at your wet flies.
Would you not put the dry and a dropper, nymph dropper?
Should do, yeah. I just don't do it often enough. But it can work. Yeah, it can work. And I keep saying that. But, I get caught in it too. I go, oh, God, the next one.
I know, yeah, because you're seeing
occasionally,
it.
Yeah, and occasionally they do. And, sometimes, and Joe Crane has a great saying. Joe's been on the show with us here. Joe says, you'll miss all these fish and everything. But he says, when he wants it, you won't take it from him.
Yeah, good fight, yeah.
So you're there worrying and going, oh my God, did I do something wrong with that? And the next and the rod is, everything buckles up.
Yeah, I just think the salmon analogy, the salmon, if they're, it's kind of like when the colder, temperatures and, they're more lethargic, they're not going to move, they're more lethargic. So I'm thinking from the trout analogy, somebody's had a plate full of chips. You're not going to get up and walk to get more chips. But if there's kind of chips in your vicinity, you might just stretch over and pick one if it's not too much of an effort.
Well, that's very true. And actually, what I often do at this time of the year, and it's a good thing to note. Okay, so in the middle of a mayfly hatch or any hatch for that matter, okay, be it olives or whatever, you'll get fish in deeper water because fish will come up and station themselves. But in other times, what you try and do then is stick to features. Okay.
Yes.
What you're saying, where they don't have to travel too far. And by features, I mean a shallow, okay?
Yeah.
So here's the thing. If you're fishing in, let's say, and I will still use feet for these. Okay, so if you're fishing in 12 foot of water with a dry fly and a fish is hugging off the bottom, he's not going to travel all that distance to come up for one fly and go down. However, if you're fishing in 3 to 4 foot of water right beside a shallow,
true,
and a fish is hugging the bottom there, you'll go,
maybe.
Yeah, it's worth my while for that to go up.
The chips,
so
the chips are on the coffee table in front of you on the couch.
I can just reach out.
They're not in the kitchen.
One last.
They're not in the kitchen behind you. Like, makes sense. Come here. It's hard to believe actually midsummer solstice already.
Look, but I mean, midsummer's night this weekend.
Yeah,
Where's it gone?
It's but there's something I always think. I always love the winter solstice. That's the proper kind of countdown to Christmas for me and there's something mystical and magical I always think, but I definitely think that's the time of year where it's bright for so long, so late.
It's lovely.
And especially this kind of weather where it's that sultry heat. I don't know, there is something, you're in the height of summer like with this. But how would you rate the season so far? Marks out of 10.
Oh, marks out of 10. Give it a 5 or 6.
Is that based on the fishing conditions,
No, I'm including the fishing conditions of that. Had we got conditions during May time,
Mm.
had we got conditions during May time, I'd be up in that to 6 or 7. Conditions really killed us in Mayfly time. Olives, I can't really say much because olives only lasted a couple of days and we'd
Yeah,
Mayfly up.
yeah, it was. Yeah, it
You
seemed
know,
to just zip by. Duck fly.
duck fly was good. Duck fly was good. I had some good days on duck fly. I didn't have huge bags. I had really good quality fish. So yeah, I'd give it I'd give it a could do better on the midsummer report. But Corrib is trying hard, but must apply itself better to its work.
I getting the impression, and even just from when we did the Mayfly review, it seems to be a kind of a more recurrent theme, which is the windows of opportunity are smaller,
Mm.
but if you time it right within that small window, the fishing can be fantastic.
That could be fantastic.
Yeah,
It really can.
yeah. But
I
it's.
mean,
Do you think it? Would you agree with that? Do you think it's
I
getting smaller, those windows of opportunity? Like,
I wrote a thing. I keep a diary, right? And I was just looking back at it, and I I, I really think we can be very selective in our memory, and I'm
mm,
firmly convinced of this. And the diary serves that as a reminder to me. And I actually wrote in this one. There was one day this year, and we left in Ishana, and we ended up to the Snowdons, right? And it went mental for an hour.
mm.
It went absolutely mental. It was brilliant. I think we caught 5 fish in the hour, right? Lost a couple, rose a couple, and the place went mental. And I wrote in my diary, great hour of action. By next year, it will be the afternoon that lasted. In 2 years' time, I will consider it a whole day's action. Do you get what I mean? Because
Mm-hmm.
I'll be looking back and I'll be thinking, oh, that was a great day on the Snowdon.
And it was an
But
hour.
I actually had to write down that it actually only lasted an hour. But you remember we can play tricks and you go back, oh, geez, you remember a couple of years ago at the Snowdon? Gee, oh, God, that was a great day.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Red letter day, you think, but it was a red letter hour, like, you know.
Yeah, it was. And I tell you, it was just brilliant. It was class. So, yeah, I think quite often, I mean, they do feed in spurts and they do come on a little bit. So, yeah, look, we all wish for the day where they're on the go all the time. And that's only ever happened to me once,
Yeah,
right?
exactly,
It's only
exactly.
ever happened to me once. Yeah, and I was lucky enough to have been out for it, and it was fantastic. But more often than not, you get windows within the day, and within those period of days, you will get windows of days that are work. If you're lucky enough to book your time, and that goes through with any trip.
Yeah, very true, very true. But the only thing I would
Mm,
say though is this Mayfly season, this early summer we had, it's been exceptional in terms of the length, the duration of that heat wave, isn't it? Like,
mm,
you know, I think you were saying it was the earliest you remember
mm.
coming on, and is this the latest you remember coming on? You know, still sticking around in terms of Mayfly.
No, no, no. I've had it. I've pictures there of getting good fish June the 22nd, actually, with a buddy of mine who didn't fish much.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, and funny enough, I remember Roy used to stay in Bayview House here when he used to come here. You know, Roy Pierce that was on the show with us. And one year, John Reddy that was in the house there on April the 22nd, he picked a couple of dozen mayfly, went out dapping and caught 4 trout on the dap. And that same year, on June the 22nd, he went out, picked a box of mayflies, and got 4 fish on the dap. So it's not completely unique. I mean, when he's talking about that, that could have been back in the 60s or the 70s.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
more 50 or 60 years ago.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
for me, that's the earliest I've seen it and the longest I've seen it last.
yeah, yeah. It's been a strange season so far, I think, isn't it? Like,
Yeah, it really has. I mean, somebody said to me, is that the second mayfly I've hatched already? So
yeah.
we don't know. We'll find out. I'll find out in July. I'm out a fair whack. I'm out a good whack in July because I've had good fishing in July the last couple of years. So I look forward to that. Somebody's talking about Sheelan, and at the moment on Sheelan, and this is just somebody I was chatting to in the fishing that they're not getting huge hatches, but they're just getting a hatch of mayfly there now, a decent hatch of mayfly. As somebody said, oh, it'll be, if you saw it on any other lake, you go, oh, that's a fair old hatch.
Is there many fishing? I wonder.
I don't think so.
It's funny,
I
isn't
don't
it?
think so.
Everybody went up for
Yeah.
those 2 weeks.
Yeah, and that's it.
And it in the Mayfly review we were saying, what was it, that it was too full of Mayfly.
Just too many.
Too many, like.
Yeah. So, But I don't know if anybody's on it. You'd hear these things afterwards because we're still in the thick of things here now. And as things quieten down, you'd hear somebody talk to you, meet somebody and chat to them and go, well, actually, yeah, middle of June, I had good fishing there. you know,
it's gas, isn't it? Yeah.
But no, you said there, yeah. So we're out in July.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And we're hoping to get to Cara.
I think, and we're going to record it. Touch wood, fingers crossed. No storm. Don't call me Jonah. We don't know what.
Jonah, I will never call you Jonah again.
You'll never be inviting me again. I tell you, if this one gets cancelled, like from weather, like.
If I want to get the lawn mowed or something, if it's pretty high, I'll just set a date for you, and I got to get good weather and get a cut.
Exactly. It's going to be right. So we're going to go to Cara. I've never fished Cara. You're going to do a bit of a recon on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope to get out on it probably the end of next week. So I hope to get out on it and see how it goes. It'll be great for you to see. It's a beautiful lake. And if anybody did listen to Tom Byrne on that podcast, I mean, you could tell Tom Byrne has a great love for it.
Yeah.
And it's just a special lake. So, yeah, hopefully you get to see it.
I'm looking forward to bringing the microphones and record, even to see if I can even put into words, what it'll be like. Because even I'd say, even just from the pictures or taking pictures, I'd say you can't even do justice to it in terms of kind of the unique.
No, they really can't. So many times I've tried to get photos of it.
Yeah.
And even with an SLR camera, well, I'm not good enough with it, right? And I've taken some, but it's, nothing beats what you see when it's there.
Yeah, well, I'll do my best to describe it, and if we can catch some fish as well. And I'm looking forward to it now. It should be, it should be good fun.
Now, we do have a backup plan.
What's the backup?
Of hoping if it's not good, it's Corrib.
Yeah, not a bad plan.
It's not a bad plan.
It's nice to try somewhere like that as well, somewhere different.
Yeah. I can only recommend to people, if ever they get a chance to fish it, to go and see it.
And don't mind the guide talk. I'll tell you the truth.
Oh, we've gone red top, have we?
Gotcha.
Exclusive for Dara Whelan. Our reporter Dara can reveal
the truth about Cara. I know it'll be good. It'll be a bit of fun. And by that stage as well, hopefully we'll have launched season 2 of The Last Salmon. So
that's good. Yeah,
that's coming up.
When is it actually coming out?
Well, actually, do you know, it'll probably be mid-July. At this stage, we said we're launching it in July anyway. So we're in the thick of we finished the recordings. So we're doing edits and kind of promo clips and stuff like that.
So have you done all the recordings?
Yeah, 90%. I think we've done 11 of the 12 episodes. So we've got a great lineup of guests. We're going to be starting with Rob McFarlane, Is a River Alive? I think we mentioned that last week or 2 weeks ago. Yeah, Rob McFarlane, the New York Times #1 his book Is a River Alive was in at #1 New York Times bestsellers list. Yeah, he was touring America, I think, the last few weeks with the book. Brilliant book. I read it. And Robbie's a great talker. He's really engaging, really erudite, really smart, but makes you feel comfortable in his while talking to him. You're saying something stupid.
Where's he from?
He's English. I think it said his grandfather is Scottish. He's an angler as well. Like he loves the outdoors, and he says he grew up going to Scotland on holidays and fishing and stuff. So he gets it. It was fascinating. So the premise of the book is looking at rivers, and I think we mentioned this, like kind of why and how rivers and their ecosystems should have constitutional legal rights now. That it was introduced in Ecuador. It's been introduced in part of New Zealand. And in other kind of smaller areas around the world. So he visited Ecuador. He visited a part of India, which was this polluted river, so it was a dead river. And then the final section was this Canadian river, forgotten the name of it, which they kayaked the down to the mouth of the river, and basically what they're talking about doing is trying to dam this river, so they're trying to kill it. Like, so he's going through the whole thing of can you do this?
Oh wow!
Should you do it? And
is that an East Coast Canadian river?
Yes, yeah. It's Atlantic Salmon River. Yeah. So it's a fascinating journey, and he's a brilliant writer, and people he talks to, and just it was fascinating. And the whole point he made, like even in the interview we did, was like, because initially I was like, don't be daft. How can you give a river legal rights. And like he makes the point, he says,
actually, I'm glad you said that, because when you said it on one of the intros we did, I was kind of going, how do you do that?
Yeah, it seems daft, but then like he makes the point, well, a business, a limited company, has more legal rights, more bloody human rights probably than ourselves, like, you know what I mean? And like he says, why the hell should a limited company, which is a completely false construct, have more legal rights than, something like the river, which is so important to us, communities, ecosystems.
And been there longer than a limited company.
So like fair point, like, and there's this growing movement forward anyway. So we're opening with that episode. That's kind of the big picture stuff. And then kind of the following episodes, really interesting because it's a really wide range of guests and topics. So we spoke to Emily Bjorkman and Lars Monk about the Baltic salmon. That's fascinating as well, because
I'm looking forward to that, because do you remember who can't remember
Connor Arnold's talking about that. But it was really interesting. So
I was fascinated with them, so I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, and the thing about the Baltic salmon was they thought they had, so that, like, the quote they give is, "We're doing everything right in terms of freshwater, in terms of habitat conservation, everything that can be done and yet the salmon numbers are still declining." So for them it was like they seem to come back. And then the last few years, it's just, in Arnold's words, fallen off a cliff. And so they're in complete despair. Like, they're like, what the hell? Who else? Oh, we spoke to Guido Rahr of, if anybody should read, it's a fantastic book called Stronghold. It's one of the best fly fishing books I've read recent years. It's about Guido's life story. He's just becomes dedicated to helping the conservation of salmon, and he goes, this is like 30 years ago, goes to Kamchatka and the Russian Far East, where it's just like this vast wilderness, and he ends up basically manages to establish like a stronghold, a wilderness conservation area for the salmon and its ecosystem in the Russian Far East. Like, it's an incredible story. But of course, since Putin and Ukrainian war, obviously that's all shut down. Like, so that's a fascinating one. What else? Matt Hayes in Norway. We speak to Matt Hayes. We mentioned Matt Hayes, Hayes and Mick Brown. And so we're finding about the Norwegian rivers. And what else are we doing? Oh, we did one on the chalk stream salmon in the UK. That's known as the white rhino. That's a really interesting one. All those chalk streams and how endangered the salmon are down there, like, and again they're doing a restoration project, trying to do what they can, and they're a unique strain, obviously, those chalk stream salmon. We speak to Peter Rippin in Iceland to find out about Iceland and the hatcheries and why salmon fishing is maybe more successful over there, what's going on in Iceland. What else do we?
It wouldn't be the hatcheries, would it?
Well, they're concerned now with the salmon farms and everything, and and it's warming water as well. So you're having to go more north. So we're doing a whole range. Oh, there's an interesting one actually. We still have to record the interview with Fawn Sharp. She's a Native American leader, and she talks about obviously the importance of salmon to their communities and the kind of battles she's fought to try and kind of keep their rivers safe and pollution free.
Oh, cool.
So she's a bit of an activist, and kind of the FBI are involved, and it's a kind of a cool story. Like, it's not often you can say salmon fishing and the FBI in the same sentence. So so look, that's only a selection. That's just what I'm thinking off the top of my head. So there's loads more episodes like that. And we're going to be releasing them every 2 weeks, so it'll kind of this season will essentially last for 6 months, like, so it'll give people a good taste of it.
Oh, good. No, I look forward to a couple of ones there that I would really want to listen to. Particularly the Baltic one. Fascinating.
Yeah, no, it is. It is fascinating. Like, and it's the thing, you realize about kind of, you might be a salmon angler in Ireland or wherever, or Scotland, wherever you are, but it's actually, it's a transnational story. Especially like take the Atlantic salmon. Yeah. It's North Atlantic, you know what I mean? So everything from from the east coast of Canada, Greenland, Iceland, Ireland, Scotland, Scandinavia, it's that whole gamut. Like, we're all being affected by it.
Yeah. One of the things I've always enjoyed about doing podcasts is you get to talk to so many different people. I really like that for doing this one. So for you, that must be absolutely fantastic. Getting to talk to all these people, because it is fascinating.
It is, but you know what? At least I can get to do a bit more in Ireland where I can actually bring the microphone, like go into car and we can record it. I actually find the more podcasts I do, the more frustrated I kind of get by just sitting here in my office behind a microphone. And especially the salmon episodes, right. Where you're talking to somebody in Norway and you're going, I want to be there just on the ground, finding out what's happening. Iceland, I want to be, you know what I mean? Yeah. These stories just come to life where you're just like, if I could just be recording that now on site, like it would just bring it to life for people so much more. I think it's, and even the great reaction I got to that, the spring salmon slaney fishing, where I was able to. Yeah,
I mean, it was great. It was great. And like, I have people, I've met so many people and saying, geez, the one with Darren, the slaney, that was great. Yeah. That was brilliant,
It brings it to life for people. So, and look, we'd love to do more of that as well. So, we'll do the Carrow one as well.
Well, we'll do the Carrow one now and see how that goes. Yep. So it was funny when you mentioned Canada there, because hopefully we hope to be talking to Jamie Pike
from Newfoundland
and get Jamie. Yeah, so that'd be interesting. I was chatting to Jamie there earlier on a while back, and it'd be interesting to see maybe later on this. His season only started there a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, very short season, isn't it?
Yeah, it is very short, very short. So it'd be interesting to see what their runs are like on that side of the Atlantic Ocean. To see, are they having the same problems,
Well, yeah, and actually one of the episodes we did was looking at East Canada Atlantic salmon, and it's actually really interesting. So most of the rivers are getting badly affected. Climate change is having a big effect. So the warmer waters, the numbers just aren't there. And what's happening is actually now a couple of strongholds, kind of more northern Labrador, these rivers, right? And because there's no people, they're isolated, and it's private fisheries, so it's controlled and regulated, that these rivers are having insane runs and catches. And we find out about that. And yet when you go below a certain latitude, the rivers below this latitude are crap, so it'll be interesting to speak to
you were telling me about that, and I mean, and these, as you said, these places are so remote. The only way you can get in, the only access to them is by flying in.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, it's funny. Yeah. The secret now to good salmon fishing is no people. That seems to be no people is the secret to a good salmon run.
Yeah.
And very, very northern climes. But I remember Ken Whelan saying to me as well, like a year or two ago, they're seeing it like the fish are moving north. They're adapting, they're looking for the colder waters. Like our waters are going to be like the Spanish, French waters,
Yeah. And Spain and France used to have sizable runs of Atlantic salmon.
Yeah. And I always tell this story when I spoke to Noel Carr from Fista a couple of years ago when I was doing a radio documentary. God, it was pre-COVID, so whatever that was, probably 6-7 years ago. And he always tells the story. Where were we? I think we were up in the Finn or somewhere, and we were driving down. He was giving me a tour of kind of some of the rivers up there. And and always stuck with me where this Spanish visitor would come in. He'd fly into Shannon and he'd rent the car and he'd drive up the west coast of Ireland. And he'd have his family with him. And he'd be pointing out salmon to his kids because salmon pretty much don't exist where he is in Spain. And, he wanted to show them, see that's a salmon. And I remember Noel Carr then saying to me, he says, I just hope we don't become like Spain where, we're saying to our kids, oh, this is what a salmon once looked like. And it always struck me, like it always stayed with me, like.
Yeah, it doesn't bear thinking. Yeah,
so that's it. But look, we have a couple of good episodes as well. We're going to be speaking of hot waters. We're going to be speaking to Ken Whelan.
Yeah.
Ken gave a great talk at the Adair Springs Spring Fly Fair or Spring Fishing Fair, where the title of his talk was Trout and Hot Water. So a very relevant topic to be talking about. So Ken's going to be joining us to talk about that. Just explain the conditions, and and I suppose how to target them, how to handle the fish, how fish behavior changes in the hot water. So that's going to be really interesting, very relevant and timely. What else are we doing? Speaking of more hot waters, we're going to speak to Ronan Collins, who's back from a West African fly fishing trip. So that'll be interesting. Ronan's always great to chat to. And
because I remember him telling us before about him planning to go there.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to hear.
Yes. It's like we're not quite at the West African stage yet. But
temperatures just yet. But it's going to be good.
So Ronan's always got a good few stories. What else have we got coming up, Tom, in the next few weeks?
Hopefully we get James Barry back on, because remember the survey they're doing on Sheeling, the tagging that they did.
Yes.
To find out what the fish were doing in Sheeling.
Yeah.
And so hopefully we'll get James back on, because I'm really looking forward to hearing that. The little snippets that we've heard, that come weekend time, fish go deeper. And what happens at weekend time, there's more traffic. So does that correlate with more traffic? The fish sense it and move down.
Yeah.
And, there's one fish apparently, I've only heard snippets, but there's one fish that stays in one spot for most of the time and then goes off on a tour of the lake. Right, goes off and comes back. But I'd love, I've only heard all this, secondhand and things. So it'd be great if we could have them on and say, is it true? Are they doing this? Are they, retreating to deeper water, the weekend? So hopefully, because when we had him on, when he was on the last time, they were still compiling all the results and everything, and it's ongoing.
Yes, exactly.
So,
exactly. And hopefully there might be a bit more meat in the bone than we can talk about in the coming weeks. I did want to say as well, as if anybody any suggestions or any thoughts or any type of episodes they want to hear, whether it's a fishery focus, whether it's tactics, whether it's any topic like that, or somebody you want to hear interviewed, do drop us a message, either DM us on Instagram or send us an email, info@irelandonthefly.com.
Or on the Facebook.
Or on the Facebook, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, we're always looking for ideas or what you want to hear as well. Be nice to hear from listeners as well, to get your feedback, and we'll do our best to try and incorporate, because we're always looking for new ideas.
Because it is good to hear back. And we have got, in all fairness, we've got some great ideas. Yeah. And there's some more still on the pipeline. And, for people who have given us ideas, they're still in the pipeline. Don't worry. Hopefully to get around. We have some things hopefully that we get done and get people on the show. Yep. Because there's quite a few things. I remember saying to you when we started this off, and I was kind of like, God, will we have enough people to bring on? And you know what? The list is endless. It really is.
The Excel sheet just keeps getting added.
Yeah, it just keeps. Yeah.
Don't have enough time. We'll have to start a members club or a subscription thing. You never know. That might be something to try and tease out. Anyway,
we might try and something of that. It'd be good. One thing I wanted to mention, because we just missed it last week.
Yes.
Big shout out and congratulations to the Irish Four Nations team.
Yeah.
Fishing the Rivers International on the Blackwater last week. They performed fantastically. They got gold. And the top rod actually was Kieran Riley, just fresh back from the World Championships.
Good man,
Kieran. Fair play to him. But fantastic. It was a great performance. Sean Bowman was the manager. He's a local guy down there. I know Sean. I've fished on an Irish team with him on the Locks before. But Sean was in as manager, and he had the local knowledge. And because I don't think there was, the team was from a couple of Ulster lads on it. Darius was on it as well.
Go on, Darius.
Kieran. Yeah. And okay, so 5 men on each team. 5 rods on each team. 4 teams, so 20 individual places. Ireland got the top 5 individual places.
That's what you call sweeping the boards.
That is really sweeping the board. Now, fair play to them. It's fantastic performance, and nice to see. And big shout out to Kieran. Great performance.
Well, we've mentioned it before, haven't we? With the youths doing so well, the Irish have been doing well in terms of the World Championships, and now these internationals. We're holding our own. Like we're more than holding our own. We're bloody.
Yeah, definitely more than holding our own. Something like that. That's just that's
1 to 5,
really good, and it's nice to see.
Yeah, exactly. So well done, lads. Well done. Keep up the great work, and we'll keep in touch with any competitions and any results like that. So just to let people know that how well the Irish fly fishing scene is doing on the international stage. So look, I think that's it for this week, Tom. It's been a mid-season review. What did you say? More to do? Is that what was that phrase? The political phrase?
A lot done, but more to do. That was it. A lot done, but more to do. Right. Okay.
So on that bombshell. Tight lines for the second half of the season. The evenings are going to be getting shorter by 2 minutes. I think it is every day after the midsummer. So.
No, there is a plateau.
Plateau, is it for a couple?
No, there is a plateau. I think for until about the 25th or the 26th,
right,
and then they start getting shorter.
Right. Well,
but you know what they say around in Galway here. I was always said here. All right, Galway races are at the end of next month.
Yes.
And they say, Galway races, here comes winter.
Well, it won't be long coming, I tell you. Won't be long coming, so make the most of it. Get out while you can, especially in these conditions. Get out while you can, because make the most of it.
We'll be back next week. Next week it's...
Ken Whelan, I believe. Trout and Hot Water.
Until next week, all I can say is don't forget to rate, review and follow the Ireland on the Fly podcast on Apple, Spotify or wherever you get your podcast from.
Plus you can keep up to date on IrelandOnTheFly.com as well as on Instagram, and myself and Tom will be back with another episode about the people and places of fly fishing in Ireland.